I said, I'm looking for the doctor who helped me. Can you find out who it is? And she goes, this doctor doesn't exist. I go, excuse me? My mom would tell the story, and she kept saying, an angel saved my daughter. Said, because he glowed.
This is Touched by Heaven. Everyday encounters with God. Those moments when heaven and earth collide. And we see God, we see his hand reaching out to us, attempting to get our attention, inviting us into a closer relationship. Welcome. I'd be your host, Trapper Jack, and these are, well, it was an angel, right? Had to be an angel. These moments, everyday people here, we have everyday people stories, and they're just going through their day, and then suddenly this thing happens, and they go, what? It was an angel, right? Let's start with a couple we met in Medjugorje recently from Idaho.
I should probably be dead, but God says, no, not today.
This would be Daryl, and soon we'll be talking to his wife, Joni, because they have their own individual angel stories.
Was vacationing for the weekend, Labor Day weekend, with my wife and my travel trailer. We finished the weekend, very windy day of the last day. We drive home. I do my part in cleaning out the trailer, putting things away, and now I move on to the house. So I go off to the back corner of my house, and I'm cleaning the rain gutters.
And we're at about the point where Daryl is going to remember nothing until he wakes up in the hospital. But he's going to be found, not back out there in the back where he's cleaning out the rain gutters. He's going to be found inside the house where wife Joni is going back and forth to the camper. That's where she is going to find him.
In between the dining room table and the front door, right where my wife could see me laying there on my back as if I was asleep, except I had blood coming out of my nose and my ears, and I was not awake. I was out cold. 911 was called.
So let's go back to the back of the house as Daryl is about to clean out the rain gutter.
2 stories high and a little elevation drop of another 18 inches. And I had a cherry picking ladder, aluminum ladder. Love the ladder on grass for my cherry trees, but it's terrible and unsafe on concrete. But it was the only ladder I could use on a 2-story house, so I used it, and that was a big mistake. As I cleaned the rain gutter, I looked to the left, looked to the right, reached over, and that's as far as I can get. And I said to myself, I need to get him off the ladder and move the ladder, right? Normally. That's the last thing I remember. Apparently, I waddled the ladder off that lip edge of concrete into dirt and tipped over to the right. I could have impaled myself on any number of things I have on that side. Didn't land anything except perfectly in the middle where I had dirt. Everything else around me could have been even worse. But I was still in bad shape. Hitting my right shoulder and then my side of my head. And I don't remember anything, the fall or anything. It's just a blank. But from where I was, I had to be rescued, right? My wife would have never found me over there for much too long, an hour or two, looking for me and find me out there. And I needed attention, so.
And this is that head-scratching moment where Daryl says, had to be an angel, right? Because for me to get from that place in the back to where my wife Joni found me.
This is how to get to where I was. Walk 12 feet to the back door of the garage, turn right, walk 12 feet, and go down 8 feet stairs. Turn right, go into the house, walk 12 feet, turn left, go up 8 steps of stairs, back to the main level. Now I'm in front of the front door, between the kitchen and the door. And it just a little bit further laid me down on my back, so peacefully, in between the dining room table and the front door, right where my wife could see me laying there on my back as if I was asleep, except I had blood coming out of my nose and my ears, and I was not awake. So
to the person who says you walked it, you just don't remember.
I did not walk it. I couldn't have physically picked myself up and done any of that. I just couldn't have. And
When did you come to?
in the hospital, I was out cold.
Okay.
911 was called, rushed me to the hospital. tore every muscle on my right shoulder, concussion on my head, and the concussion resolved itself, but full surgery on my right shoulder. Live to tell about it,
And, again, in his story, it's easy just to say, well, he just got up. He just started walking.
I just don't believe it's too difficult. The down the stairs, all the right turns, left turns, up and down the stairs to get to where I was, just so my wife could see me and give me help right away.
Yeah. But he couldn't take the extra 2 steps to get himself into the kitchen where he could moan and fall to the floor. No, he's found just laying there in the path where Joni would be walking to and fro. I find very curious.
So she could find me, take care of me.
Yeah, wow.
And, that's just crazy. It's not my time. It's not my time.
We're in Medjugorje right now. What's this trip been for you so far this week?
Oh, wow. I'm looking forward to tomorrow morning early. We're going to walk that big mountain, cross mountain, and we've seen some miracles already here. I've felt Mary's presence one-on-one here, and I went out last night, almost middle of the night, up to and visited Mary on Apparition Hill, and I felt her presence there. She was there for me and for all the others that were kneeling there in the dark with our flashlights. She was there saying hello.
Yeah, that's so cool.
Thanks, Daryl. His wife, Joni, very faith-filled her entire life.
I can count how many days I've missed church more than I can say how many I've ever been.
Wow. All right. And what's your story?
Well, it's the birth of my son. And the day he was born, I was really sick. I had toxemia, went into preeclampsia. I remember giving birth to him. I remember Daryl's face in his blue scrubs, and that's the last thing I remember. Some nurse, a big guy, he was picking me up and saying, we gotta go. And I remember my eyes opening and I could see my bed was just terrible. And so they rushed me into surgery.
What does that mean, terrible?
It was all bloody. Mm-hmm. And the next thing I remember is waking up in an intensive care unit. I didn't even know. I thought it was like a flash of a moment in time, but it wasn't. It was several days. I weighed 82 pounds when I went home after.
What were you going in?
About 130.
Are you kidding?
No.
What all did you lose?
Everything.
Yeah.
My kidneys shut down, my bladder, everything just kind of shut down. I went home on 14 prescriptions. And
when you say it was kind of a blip, but it was days, how many days we talking?
I think it was 4 days or something like that.
It just all disappeared.
Everything disappeared, yeah. And I went to talk to my mom about it, and my mom shared a story. And she said that when the doctor came out, he said, okay, I'm taking your daughter into surgery. And my mom was holding a rosary, and he said, I want to ask you a favor to my mother. And my mother said, what do you want? And he goes, I could see you're religious. I want you to pray, not for your daughter to live, but for my hands to be able to save her. And so my mom said he glowed at that moment. He just was like, something just stuck out to her. So I went into surgery. I came out, and things got better. He saved my life. So then
the surgery was designed to do what?
It was designed to stop the bleeding. I was lacerating in all areas. I was bleeding from everywhere inside. I was basically hemorrhaging, which women can do. I got to go home, and again, I was sitting there talking to my mom, and I said, I really want to thank that doctor for saving my life and saving my son. And I wasn't supposed to be able to have any more kids. So, or they didn't want me to. So Daryl and I went to go to the post-op. You go a week later or whatever. And I said, let's deviate. I want to go find the doctor. I want to thank him. And we had a gift for him. So I asked the lady, I said, one of the information ladies, I said, I'm looking for the doctor who helped me. Can you find out who it is? And she's like, okay, well, what? And I told her the date and everything, and she's looking up. She can't find the doctor. I go, well, he was here. I'm here.
There was a surgery.
There was a surgery. There's got to be a record. My mom would tell the story, and she kept saying, an angel saved my daughter. And I just was like, she was meaning that he was an angel because you did a good job. Didn't think anything about it at all. So now we'll fast forward a little bit, and I worked for an oral maxillofacial surgeon, and we had a patient come in, and she was the record keeper for this particular hospital. So I was telling her this story, and I said, I really want to say thank you to this guy. So she says, okay, well, I can definitely find out who it is. She ends up coming back to my office, and she says, is it this hospital? And I said, yeah. This is the date. I said, yeah. So she Xeroxed everything. So I'm looking through all the paperwork, and I can see a scribble, but you can't read it because it's a doctor name. And I go, oh, this is the doctor. So I took that paper back, and I asked the lady, I go, this is the doctor. I want to find this doctor. She looks at it, and she's like, okay, let me look. She looked all over the United States. She looked at every number, everything she can. She goes, this doctor doesn't exist. I go, excuse me? And she says, this doctor. She goes, I don't understand. She goes, I've been spending 3 weeks now looking for this doctor, and I cannot find it. I still have the paper at home with his signature on it. And the date,
his number or whatever they have to put on this file.
Yeah, the ID thing. And she could never find it. I have made it a life's mission to find this guy. And having access to doctor stuff for me, I can't find it either. And
what about your mom?
My mom swears it was an angel.
Well, where does she get that? I mean,
She said because he glowed. She said when he talked to you, he glowed at times. And
did you try going back to the nurses to say, do you know who that was?
Nobody knows who it is.
Did you talk to nurses?
Mm-hmm.
You talked to nurses, and they had never worked with that doctor?
No, it must have been a temp doctor. We don't know what his name was. He was a temp doctor. Nobody knows the guy's name. And it's like a scribble on the paper. Yeah. It doesn't have a name on it.
Can't find this guy anywhere, this doctor that glowed. And that actually reminds me, in fact, I want to play this for you. This happened, a similar story. It was back in episode 58. Her name was Diane. She was in the hospital. She had given up a kidney for her brother, who had 2 failing kidneys, and he was diabetic, and he was on dialysis, and she was a match. She went in, and she gave up a kidney, and God seemed to give her an atta-girl 3 times.
For 3 days in a row, this early in the morning, this being, a gentleman came in, and his face like glowed, you know. He was like so handsome, didn't say anything to me, would come over and he'd touch my arm, and then he would leave. He had a name tag on. He had a white jacket on. The name tag, it wasn't like a tag. It was just like a little white sliver that said Dr. Gabriel. But he never said anything, and just his face, I still could see his face. His face was like lit up, you know. I mean, he just made me feel like everything's going to be okay. But anyway, after the 3 days, I got discharged, and they asked me how my stay was at the hospital. I said, oh, it was really nice. I said, but the best part, every morning, Dr. Gabriel would come in, and he would just kind of look at me and touch my arm. I says, and it just made my day just so happy, you know. And they said, Dr. Gabriel, we don't have a Dr. Gabriel. So I'm thinking it was Gabriel the Archangel.
Not a word.
Not a word. Nope. Not a word. He just touched my arm, and I could feel his hand. It was like a warm touch, and then he would leave.
As you look back on it, are you surprised you didn't say a word to him?
I am surprised because usually I'm quite talkative, you know, or I would say, wow, you're so handsome or something. I always say something stupid, you know.
So when you told the nurse this, you know, that Dr. Gabriel.
She just said, well, we don't even have a Dr. Gabriel. I said, what? And then she walked out. It's like, okay. and Dr. Gabriel, I mean, come on. You know, if it would have just been like one time that I saw Dr. Gabriel, I would have thought, well, maybe I was hallucinating or something. But 3 times he came in.
Have you noticed that God's big on the number 3?
Oh, I got goosebumps again. I didn't even think of that. Wow.
But the other part of it is, it's painful. It's a painful process.
And you know what? only in, I think they said 2% of the people that donate have any kind of problems, and I was in the 2%. I have nerve damage.
And how does that manifest itself? What do you feel now?
Every day, well, it's every day. It feels like ants are crawling.
Where the kidney was, you were feeling it, like ants are crawling around for a little while,
like
or all
ants.
day, or what?
No, all the time. It's all the time.
Okay.
And my brother does not know. My brother does not know that I have this nerve damage, because he would be devastated.
Yeah, for 22 years, she's kept this a secret. Her brother doesn't know to this day. You are something.
Yeah, that's,
you are something, Diane.
Oh.
You are something. Because
Yeah.
you're okay with this, aren't you? You're okay with this.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. Yep, I would do it again.
Let's pause right about here. Head scratcher. Is this an angel? There's more on that coming up in just a second here. In just a second. Quick Patreon shout out. Thanks, Laura Asif, for being there for us every month. Month? Did I say month? Every month. Thank you for being there every month at patreon.com. Or you can come here to this episode, touchedbyheaven.net, and just kind of click your way through. Thank you so much. Angels. We all wonder about angels, don't we, Ron?
Angels just completely, they kind of fascinate me also too. They're there for solace, protection, but they're these great warriors.
We all have an angel. You have an angel right there, Ron. You have an angel right there.
I would probably think so.
Well, yeah, no, you do. Everyone gets an angel. I mean, that's just part of God's great blessing. Where are you?
I'm in Columbus, Ohio.
Oh, you're just down the road. Just down the road.
It was the beginning of summer. I'm a social worker here. So I'm going to see a client. I'm going down, strangely enough, I'm going down Ennis Road, which connects to Cleveland, a street called Cleveland.
Cleveland, the city I live in.
So I'm going down Ennis Road, and I stopped at the light. I'm going to make a left. I'm waiting for the left turn signal. So waiting for the left turn signal, just sitting there waiting for the arrow and everything and stuff. Cars are going normally down past, about 40 miles an hour. And so seeing one car approaching, the arrow's about to change and stuff. And then something says to me in my head, very clear, that car's not going to stop. And I'm thinking about my clients. I'm not like, oh yeah, people look, they approach the light aggressively sometime, but they know to put on brakes. So I'm pull out. And I hear a yell and stuff. It's not going to stop, telling me to stop. So I put on the brake. The car blows right through the light. Didn't stop, didn't slow down, nothing. Then just right through the light. And at the rate they were going about 40 miles an hour. And you could hear them talking and the music was blasting. They're just completely oblivious of what they were doing,
And if that voice isn't there, you're plowing through and you're getting plowed, bottom line.
It would have hit me on the driver's side. And I'm going to be 60 next year, and I don't think I would have made it through.
Yeah.
I don't think I was in great physical shape to make it through.
Yeah. I mean, how many times have we heard that on these episodes? So many times hearing a voice, or for some reason I didn't hit the gas, or somebody suddenly grabbed my shoulders, or this has happened so many times. All the things that could be happening out on the roads and highways that don't, it's remarkable. He saved you. You assume whom?
One of his angels he sent to make sure I don't go before my time.
Yeah. Hey, I'm betting on Angel here. I'm betting on Angel. It's what they do, It's what they do.
I think the big takeaway here for me is that if you have more to do, then you're going to be okay. It's like, just keep the faith.
Thanks, Ron. Keep the faith. Made easier, of course, when we hear a voice that loudly, twice. He's not going to stop. Thanks, Ron. Let's stay on the road. Actually, listening to that story reminded me of early on in Touched by Heaven, we were talking to Jeremy, and Jeremy was loving his Ford F-150. So let's stay on the road for this story.
You have no idea the way you touch people. It's just totally different from anything I've ever heard before. It's real life situations to where people can relate to what you're talking to. Because prior to me listening to what you were saying, I'm like, man, I'm like really screwed up or something, or if there's something weird about me that I'm noticing this stuff. Is anybody else noticing it? So hearing about it through other people in real life situations is where it's at. God is speaking through you, through those people that come onto your show. This truck, as you see, I'm a motorhead. I was needing to get plates for this truck, Trapper. I go to the Sydney DMV, which is where we go to get her plates and stuff. Every day I carry on a conversation with Jesus. It's a continued conversation. Right before I go in there, I was like, Lord, I really need something cool. I never ask for signs, and I just never do, because I just don't. But that one, I just went, I'd like to see something that would remind me of you. Could you give me some really cool plates? Something really cool. Pay my bill, walk out the doors, walk into my car in the parking lot. I flip open the plastic, pull out the plates that says his 7925. His jumps out.
His. Capital H, his. Yeah, there you go. That's great.
I guess you'd say I'm kind of getting galvanized because I'm so used to seeing this stuff. This has been multiple years ago. Is when I was taking care of my dad, and the twins were little. So I'm like, I need a new truck. And so I came across this big F-150 four-wheel drive. I mean, it sat pretty high and had these big gumbo wheels, I had to have this truck. So I sold my Ranger, got this truck. I went and had the tires rotated, had them balanced and rotated. And I drove this thing home. And later on that night, which would have been the first time I actually took it on a maiden voyage, I guess you would say, went to work. A lot of guys at work, they're Chevy guys. So they're all like, hey, look at your big Ford truck out there. I'm like, yeah, pretty cool, isn't it? But anyways, that night I got off of work. I thought, well, I'm going to go get some gas in this thing, and I'm going to drive it to Anna, which is probably 10 miles from Minster. And this is at 2 o'clock in the morning. I'm driving 60, 70 mile an hour to this gas station, which is near Interstate 75, which is Anna is right next to it. I drove all the way there, got gas, driving back 60, 70 mile an hour, passing semis at night, oncoming semis, not thinking much of it. And I turned the corner and go down this long road, and the front of the truck made a weird, funky noise, didn't know what it was. Drove another 2 miles, pulled into the driveway, turned the wheel a little bit, and the whole front of the truck just dropped like a rock, and the wheel came off. All the lug nuts on the truck were gone on that front wheel. And I'm like thinking, Lord, you got to be kidding me.
Were there any lug nuts in it to begin with, or were they all missing? Yeah, they were.
They were all missing. I drove that speed, I don't know how long before there was no lug nuts. But they were all completely gone, Trapper. I'm driving up the road with no lug nuts on my front driver's wheel.
So your theory is you get this truck, you drove to work, you drove home, you drove to work, you drove to and fro this gas station and all this. I mean, you're all told, what is that, 45 minutes of driving, an hour? What was it?
Yeah, well, actually, probably I would say maybe 45 minutes after I had the tires rotated in Sydney, which... I bought the truck, brought it home, took it, and had the tires rotated and balanced, brought back home. And then probably roughly 45 minutes of driving, because I drove to work, then drove all the way to Anna and drove all the way back. There's no lug nuts on it. So they were on it, I thought, when I left the tire shop.
So they rotated the tires, and one of the tires they forgot to put the lug nuts back in.
Possibly.
Wait a minute, lug nuts, but the lug nuts are... Wait a minute, the lug nuts...
They're pretty key, yeah.
They're pretty key.
They kind of hold things together, yeah. They have surfaces that literally hold the rim to the hub, which is actually the main part of your axle, which carry the load weight of your truck or your car, whatever it's hooked to.
Somehow, when they were rotating, they didn't put the lug nuts back in. How many lug nuts are on a wheel? 4?
There's 5 on this one.
5?
5 lug nuts.
Okay.
And, I would have thought he would have had them on, which they should have been at that point, but somehow they must have worked off.
There's no way. Wait a minute. They were totally missing, right?
They were totally missing by the time I pulled in the driveway, because these big tires, they were relatively fancy-looking aluminum rims. They must have either worked off. They completely came off the studs. They weren't stripped.
Now, I do know that sometimes they'll put things in, and as kind of a starter, it's like they'll put them in, and then they'll finish the job, right? They'll kind of put them in, place them, and then, tighten them up, then tighten them up.
With an impact wrench.
Yeah, and so it's possible that they were all in but not tightened, and then they just all fell out or whatever. But to be driving that long, pull into your driveway, and then the wheel falls off. Jeez Louise.
The first thing I thought was, I passed those semis coming on head on 60, 70 mile an hour. I've been head on into a semi or into a ditch. That's what I'm talking about. Jesus is in the grandest of things, the smallest of things. And there's no coincidences, Trapper. There is absolutely no coincidences in life. He's with everybody,
Is this the truck that has the his on it?
Oh, no, that one's all long gone.
Oh, that was well,
That's somebody else's. That's somebody else's now.
Now,
So
okay, all right.
Yeah.
I would say you're still his. I don't know. Wow. I mean, now granted, a lot of that is straight driving, but I'm sure there's some turns in there too. There's some intersections. There's some lefts and rights.
Oh, yeah. Especially when I went through town to get to the gas station, I would have turned in, turned around, came back around the gas station, and straight shot back down 119, and then turned onto our road. And it isn't straight, but...
You know what I want a picture of? You know what I want a picture of? I want the picture. I want somebody to be taking a picture of you as you pull into the driveway and you hear thunk. I'm not sure you know what it is right away. I doubt it.
Oh, yeah, no. I was like, I thought maybe the suspension dropped. Okay.
And you get out and you look at your wheel lying there next to the truck.
Yeah, flipped on its side because with the turning, forced it completely off of the hub. Bam, onto its side. And the whole...
Oh, my gosh. That's the picture I want of you going, wait a minute.
Your eyes as big as they could be, He is in the mix of things. He's in the batter. You know what I'm saying? You ever baked a cake before? He's in the batter, man. He's the stirrer, dude. He's mixing it up for us, man.
Yes, he is.
So I always pray that other people see this stuff too, and I'm no different than anybody else. I've been teaching a religion class at St. Augustine, which is our church where we live in Minster, for 8 years. I always ask them, and I do this to these kids all the time if I see them out in areas, and I did this on this Washington, D.C. trip that I went with my youngest son last month, is I asked this whole class, I go, how often is Jesus with you? And these kids yell, always. I go, some of the time? Always. And they all yell it back, Trapper. These kids get it,
Thanks, Jeremy. I appreciate your time today. God bless you.
God bless you, too, and thank you very much. And we'll catch you later.
Will do. Thank you. Always and in all ways. Thank you, Jeremy, and thank you, Ron, and Daryl, and Joni. These head-scratching, it was an angel, right? It was an angel. God moments. They are God moments. They are touched by heaven moments. And thank you for sharing these stories and making this. I always say there's 2 fuels here. We have 2 fuels going. One for the F-150. We've got that one. Another one, of course, maybe it's 3 now. These stories, your stories. Thank you so much for your stories of angels and divine intervention, near-death experiences, visions, dreams, all of it. All of it. They're all very real and show us that God is walking with us always and in all ways with us. Remarkable stories that we all are opening our eyes to. So thank you for your stories here at touchedbyheaven.net. And the other fuel, of course, is Patreon. Thank you so much for that at patreon.com. Appreciate it so much to keep this moving along. So, and I will see you next week, right? I think we're going to do this next week, right? Yes? Oh, good. Okay, just checking. This is Touched by Heaven, everyday encounters with God. I'm Trapper Jack, and I'm telling you, we're not going to stop. We're just not.
It's not going to stop.